In October 2018, I began to experience some changes in my body. I was experiencing a lot of back pain, I was getting really nauseous, and I knew that something was wrong with me. One night I went to the bathroom, and when I went to wipe, I saw something that I would describe as what would come out of a horse. I had a lot of vaginal discharge and I had never seen that much before, and so I knew that I had to go to the doctor. I figured I probably had either a UTI or an STI, and so I knew that I had to get some tests to see what it was that was exactly wrong with me. I went to this free clinic that I used to go to, that my friends and I would go and get checked for STIs. I had been there several times before, so I trusted that this was a place that I could go to. When I was at the clinic, I was taking several tests, and they told me that if they were to find anything, that they would call me the next day and they would let me know. And so I left sort of thinking, okay, everything is gonna be fine. If anything comes up, they will let me know. The next day, I was at work and I checked my email, and I saw that I had an email from the clinic telling me that they had found something in my results and that I needed to go back. That day after work, I went back to the clinic. They had me do all of the tests again, and they told me I had chlamydia. So I thought, okay, this is what's wrong with me. This explains all of the symptoms that I've been having. I have chlamydia. I'll just take the pills. A lot of my friends have had chlamydia. So I thought that that was kind of just the end of it. Right before I had to speak with the doctor, they pulled me into a room and had me pee in a cup. This was just part of the routine, so I didn't think anything of it. When I came out of the bathroom, one of the nurses asked me when was the last time I had my period. I told her I never get my period. I have an eating disorder, so I don't know when my last period was. She then told me, well, I need to know when was the last time you had your period because you're pregnant. I looked at her and I told her, that's not possible. There's no way that I'm pregnant. I'm infertile. I don't even eat. I'm malnourished. There's no way. She definitely looked at me and just knew that I was in denial. I asked her if she could test me again. I told her, it's gonna come out negative. I know that that's a false positive. She tested me again, and when I came back out, she said, you're pregnant. I then went to go speak with the doctor. He was to explain to me the medication for the STI. I could barely speak to him. I could not concentrate. The only thing that I was thinking about was, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant. One thing is having an STI that you just take a medication and it goes away. A pregnancy is something totally different. So as he's speaking to me, I cut him off and I apologized, and I told him I could not concentrate. I would take the medication, but please just let me get out of here. He asked me what was wrong, and I told him that I was pregnant. And then he tried to convince me to keep it. He knew that I wanted an abortion. He asked me if I knew what the father would think. And that was when I told him that I actually did not know who the father was. I went home, I told my brother and my friends. I was terrified. I had absolutely no idea what to do. I just knew that I couldn't tell my family outside of my brother because I was raised in a household that was pro-life. My mom and I had a toxic relationship. It was estranged, and I just knew that I couldn't trust her or anybody in my family. I felt very alone, and I did the only thing that I knew that I could do, and that was to search online for Planned Parenthood. The next day, I made an appointment with Planned Parenthood. I had an appointment set for Saturday morning. I went with my brother and my best friend. When I went there, the first thing they did was test me again to make sure that I was pregnant. It was positive. Again, I was then told that I needed to do an ultrasound to find out how far along I was. I was so scared. I had absolutely no idea what to do. I begged them to just let my best friend come into the room with me so that she could be with me while they do the ultrasound. During this time, my biggest concern was, am I going to be able to take the abortion pill, or is it going to have to be the procedure? And so as I laid down to get the ultrasound, I was holding my best friend's hand, and as the tech was performing the exam, she told me, "You're concerned about the abortion pill, but you're far along." And she told me she had to measure the head, and I totally freaked out. I had no idea that I was far along. I thought I had to have had been 8 to 9 weeks maybe. And then she told me I was 22 and a half weeks pregnant. I freaked out, immediately got up. I said, "Am I still able to have an abortion?" I couldn't believe that this was happening. I just looked at my best friend and I told her, "I can't be a mom." I wasn't ready to be a mom. Because they saw how freaked out I was, they did not charge me for the ultrasound. She just gave me a list of 2 clinics in all of South Florida that would be able to do the abortion. I ran out into the parking lot with my brother and my best friend in a complete panic. I had no idea what to do. I was terrified. I immediately called one of the 2 clinics that they gave me the information for. I called the clinic and somebody picked up and just told me it was gonna be $3,000. I didn't have $3,000. I was 23 years old. I had just gotten my first full-time job. I was making $13 the hour at that time. I could not afford a $3,000 abortion. My brother and my best friend offered to help, but we could not make it to $3,000 together. And so the person on the phone compromised with me and said, "Just come as close as possible to half of $3,000. So just come close to $1,500. I said, okay. I made that appointment for Tuesday. That Monday I had to go into work and tell my managers that I was pregnant. I was so scared. I started crying. I didn't know what to do. I never thought that I was going to be in that situation. I had just started this job. I thought they for sure are going to think that I'm unstable. I have no idea how I'm going to go through this. It was during these times that I realized how real the desperation for an abortion can be. I was not ready. I felt invaded inside my own body, and I felt like my body was not my own. When I found out that I was 22 and a half weeks pregnant, I was able to count back and find out who it was that got me pregnant. When I found out who it was, I messaged the guy and I told him that I was pregnant. He blocked me. He actually had a girlfriend. Even when he got me pregnant, he had a girlfriend. I didn't know this, and he just wanted to make sure that she wouldn't find out. He also was already a father to a child that he did not want, and he openly expressed regret and resentment for having to take care of. Being blocked by the person who got me pregnant was extremely difficult and traumatic for me because I was raised without my biological father. I always felt unwanted, and so this was definitely a trigger where I felt kind of how my mom felt, and then also it made me feel, again, those feelings of abandonment, of rejection, and of not being wanted. I was 5.5 months pregnant, but about a month before I got pregnant, about 6.5 months prior, I had been hospitalized. I had swallowed a bottle of pills. I had been back at a treatment center. I was extremely depressed. I was very alone, and I knew that I was not in the place to have a child. I hid everything from everybody. On Tuesday, I pretended to go to work just like any other day. I got in my car, I was in my scrubs, and I went straight to the clinic instead. I changed in the parking lot. I was there with 2 of my friends. We were in the waiting room, and this first day was just a lot of appointments. It was coming into this room, you have to talk to this person, you have to sign this consent. It was just talking to a lot of people and letting them know that it was my choice to have the abortion, that I would not regret it, and that I was doing it also for my mental health. I actually had a bottle of pills ready at home for me in case they told me that I couldn't have the abortion. I was going to attempt suicide again. And if I really died, I would have just considered myself as collateral damage. But I was prepared to do whatever it took to make sure that I was not going to go full term with this pregnancy. I was also struggling with an eating disorder. I was terrified about what this was going to do to my body. During these appointments, it was explained to me that they were going to be putting something that was kind of like a tampon in my cervix, and there were these 2 tubes, and basically they were going to start to dilate the cervix. Because I was so far along, there was a possibility that I could go into labor, and they explained to me the difference between a cramp and a contraction, and that if I started to experience contractions, that I needed to call them immediately for an emergency abortion. This abortion was a 2-day procedure, so the first day was just dilating the cervix. I also got an injection in my stomach, and I had to go home with a lot of pain pills, ready to come back the next day. I slept at my friend's house. I was there all night with what started as cramps that then turned into contractions. My water broke. I began to be really scared, but I felt like I couldn't tell anybody. I thought it was supposed to just be painful and that I needed to suck it up, and so I tried to go to sleep. Throughout the night, I started to wake up, these really intense, sharp cramps that felt like period cramps mixed with like really having to go to the bathroom cramps, and I was able to start timing them. They were coming it started like every 20 minutes, 15 minutes, and it was every 5 minutes. I was in denial that I was going into labor. I didn't want to have to call the office and have an emergency abortion. I thought I'll just wait until tomorrow when I have my appointment. At about 6 a.m., I started to be in a lot of pain. I called my brother. I told him I think I need to go to the hospital right now. So he picked me up. He was not happy with me. It was early. He knew that I was hiding it from everybody. I called the clinic and I let them know that I was going. The person who picked up the phone was actually upset that I didn't go earlier. They told me, you knew that if you were gonna have contractions, you needed to call us right away. And you didn't. You need to hurry up and get here as soon as possible. The clinic was about 25 minutes away from my house. My brother drove me. The pain intensified a lot. Literally felt like my organs were shifting inside of my body to let this fetus come out. I began to actually scream in pain. When I got there, I got dropped off. There were a lot of chairs. There were a lot of us just sitting there basically on the chairs in line to go into the room so that we could have the procedure done. By the time I finally made it to the bed, I was screaming in pain. It was the most painful thing I had ever gone through up until that point. The nurses were trying to talk to me to calm me down. There was no way. I could not talk. I could not think about anything. I just kept looking at the ceiling, thinking, I have no idea if this is gonna kill me. What is happening to me? I was so scared. I kept asking the nurses when the doctor was gonna come in. They were explaining to me that he was finishing another procedure. I couldn't wait any longer. Finally, the doctor came in. The first thing I did was extend my hand out and just ask for him to please put me to sleep. He began injecting me. I said, when am I gonna be out? He said, right about now. I closed my eyes and I woke up. Everything was over. I was disoriented. I remembered everything that was happening. I looked up and I saw some nurses. I asked them if it was all over and they said yes. We went to my best friend's house. I was there bleeding, in a lot of pain, taking medications, and I just remember I offered to buy her boyfriend food. He went to go pick it up, and when he left, I was alone in her house, and I just started crying. I realized everything that I had gone through, how alone I had really felt. Even though I had some people there helping me, ultimately, I was by myself on that table, screaming in pain. That's one image I will never forget. For the next couple of days, I was bleeding. I kept what happened to me a secret. Very few people at my job knew, although maybe it did get spread as gossip, but I didn't really care. I just knew that I was happy it was over, but I was definitely traumatized. About 25% of people who get pregnant have an abortion. Many people have stories like mine. My advice is to act fast.